Jeff Thompson's come to have a look through the papers with us this morning. Sorry, lovely to see you, Jeff. And you want to start with this story about how cyclists have basically cheated to land some cash.
Well, by all accounts. I mean, I don't know if everyone was aware there was the big lottery 50 million opportunity of the 4 major projects, the Eden Project, Sherwood Forest, the Sustains Connect and the Black Country Urban Park. And it would seem that the cyclists have voted too early, and they've basically just sent a network of emails, which means the voting, like an election, might have been double counted. So David Bellamy has actually said he cannot believe that they've sunk so low, but I would have thought that cycling's a bit eco-friendly. So I had some reservations about, you know, the merits of a 50 million lottery being put to a vote. But it's obviously clear that technology again has played its part.
Yeah.
It really has.
OK, let's move on to a story that's quite a disturbing one that's gone on in Australia.
It disturbed me because, I mean, yet again, we live in a global community, but I think anybody would be outraged with the recent, non-imprisonment of 10 adults who raped a 10-year-old Aborigine girl. And it really has opened up at a time when we have a new government in Australia and in the Commonwealth. I think the issues of what is just and fair and right and proper, and I've been trying to get my head around it just as a father. I know other parents and friends from Australia contact me and say, are you aware of this? And I think it really does beg a question about globally what we look at as issues that haven't affected us locally. And this one certainly affected me. And
hugely
I think
controversial comments from the judge as well.
Oh,
he said that it was in some way consensual. Yeah.
You know, our children are so important, and if we can't protect them, then what the hell are we here for?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And front page of The Independent this morning, Al Gore laying into George Bush, unsurprisingly.
Unsurprisingly, and what people will say on political lines, I don't think anyone can deny now that I think the meetings, discussions and the ultimate negotiations taking place in Bali really are important, and I think will set the scene of taking the Kyoto protocols to another level. It's quite obvious the world is not right, it's broken, we need to fix it. And Gore is actually saying, well, you know, we can go ahead without America, but what happens without America? You know, it has such a global influence. It is an economic powerhouse, and we need to get them to the table. And I think it's time for the global community to really start bringing America
for countries like ours and for other countries within the EU, what can we really do to put pressure on the States? Because essentially, they are the biggest powerhouse in the world. So, and if they don't agree, it's things like the Kyoto Treaty and what's going on in Bali, of course they're in jeopardy, but what power do we have?
I think the special relationship, well, mind you, if Mr. Brown attends Europe and develops the relationships that I believe are nurtured for war, I'm saying, why can't we nurture the same effort and the special relationship between Britain and America, Britain's influence in Europe, and as a result, how we then go to the table. You know, last week at the European Africa Summit, yet again, Mr. Brown wasn't there, and I was a little concerned because, yet again, Gordon Brown is a champion of the African cause.
But he was there for a reason, and he was praised actually by many. He didn't go because Mugabe was there. And surely, in a way, that's to be praised, isn't it? That's to be...
It is to be praised, but we're respecting the sovereignty of every nation. Many Africans said that George Bush is equally culpable in many the things that he would possibly not do right. And I think...
As Robert Mugabe?
Yeah. I mean, that was the alternative view. But what I'm saying is, I think there are some issues that supersede. And on the issue of climate change, I think it's using all the various levels of what we call shuttle diplomacy in, I think, getting to grips with the single biggest threat to whatever the future might hold for our young.
And Gordon Brown yesterday, of course, wasn't there, was he, to sign the treaty?
You know, for me, I mean, it's like everything else. When you set yourself apart, and you know, it's always been the issue of, are we in Europe, are we out of Europe, on our terms, not on our terms? But I think there are times we just need to seem to be part of the European family. We might not be in Euro 2008.
And what do you think then about headlines like this? Prime Minister did eventually sign the EU treaty yesterday after turning up very late. Huge controversy that he wasn't there, but we shall never surrender, says the Sun, even if you have Mr. Brown. Popular media doesn't want us to join any closer to Europe.
Well, I think the question of a referendum, I think, is something that I believe should be now taken to the... But let's ask the people. Let's put this out once and for all. I think that's what a healthy democracy does. I think it would help give the Prime Minister some legitimacy and assist his decision. And I think we as a nation need to actually start getting some consensus of what we want to do and what we don't want to do.
I think the problem with the EU is that we don't really know what goes on there. The lines are so blurred, and the average man on the street has no real idea.
I think people struggle enough to get their heads around the EU in general, but when we're talking about a specific EU treaty, I think, okay, there could be a huge kind of publicity drive to educate people about it, but at the moment, people just don't understand what it is and really don't want to
because
understand.
Because it's really confusing.
Well,
there are some things that our government still have control over and some things that you don't do. They're constantly changing and being redefined.
It's perceived as being boring. I think that's the problem.
Absolutely.
But having, I mean, obviously with the Youth Charter, the work we do with youth and culture in Europe, there's some really, really great stuff going on in Europe.
Definitely.
But I just don't think it's communicated well. A lot of people are switching off to democracy, and I think this is just one of the consequences. And I think it's just simply bringing it back, giving people that role, that right to vote. And I think the interest that could come with it will bring back democracy and bring Europe as part of that.
So we were talking earlier about the regeneration of Manchester, and so much of the cash has come from the EU, hasn't it? So.
But people don't know it.
Okay, Jeff, you're back a little bit later on. We're going to be finding out how the Thompsons will be spending Christmas.
Spending it very thriftily.
Oh.
Scrooge!
Time for a break now. Join us in a few minutes to find out just how mean Jeff's been to his kids this year. See you then.